in summary, in dedicated, it was legit. Get to the library, wake my brain up, do as many questions as I can. As soon as I'm done with my questions, what am I watching next? Am I gonna watch Pathoma? Am I gonna watch Sketchy? Knock something off on my 5x4 list, repeat. You see what I'm saying? Next thing I want to talk about is like MBMEs. You have to do them, and you should plan to do all the MBMEs. You feel me? It's only in your benefit. Two things: it evaluates if what you're doing is working, and then two, it just gives you a peek at like how these step people think. You know what I mean? Because it's written by the same people. And I had like no boost, like six exact questions from old MBMEs I saw on Step, you know what I mean? And it only makes sense to do them. I can't understand how people don't do all the MBMEs, but like schedule that in your Step preparation somehow, some way. One thing I would change though, I took a practice exam every week. I would probably like maybe do like that second week interval, maybe that fourth week interval, but I would have done more MBMEs toward the end. You know, so that those questions you remember more, because there are questions on like MBME 18 and 19 that I remember because I took it 2 weeks before. But certain questions that I saw, like, you know, my first MBME, I may not have remembered. Does that make sense? So maybe taking 4 as just to see where you are if it's working, and then saving 4 for like that last 2 weeks where it's like, all right, I'm gonna take an MBME on Monday, I'm gonna take it on Thursday, Monday and Thursday. You know what I'm saying? And get them like that. By the time you take Step, you're gonna see exact same concepts, like, oh, I remember seeing the MBME question with this, you know, topic thing. Those are the MBMEs, absolute must-dos. Like, it's you know, $60, but what's $60 to like the rest of your life, you know what I'm saying? And you just gotta hit it. I did the MBMEs, I did it with a group of people where basically like we'll do the MBME, and then, because they don't show you like the ones you got right, they only show you the ones you got wrong. So basically everybody will take a turn and will explain, okay, I got this one wrong, here's my thought processing, here's my thoughts, and then somebody in the group more than likely knows that concept, and then you learn that way. And because you don't even remember which ones you got right or got wrong. You know, you marked one, you're down to 2, you just picked 50-50. You could have gotten it right, but you won't learn from it. But then somebody on the group may have gotten it wrong, and at that point you're like, oh yeah, I did get that right. Keep moving, type of thing. There's also like websites where you can like review the answers of the MBMEs, which I also read. I want to talk about Goyon. So in dedicated, like, so mind you, I'm doing my questions. I'm watching like my Sketchy / Pathoma after my questions, and I'm constantly around the clock listening to Goyon. I wake up, I'm taking a shower, Goyon. I'm taking a shit, Goyon. I didn't listen to music for 2 months when I was studying for Step. It was just Goyon, you know. So if I wasn't in the library like studying, I was like listening to Goyon as I was moving around life. Does that make sense? And it's just more content. You feel me? Like, so you can be in GI in Pathoma, right? And then where you are in Dr. Goyon, you're like, I don't know, renal. And it's like, oh yeah, bet, you know, constant flow of like, you know, heat. You know what I mean? Like, you gotta do what you gotta do, man. It's not time to play around and dedicated. So that was my thing. I just listened to Dr. Goyon all the time. One thing I would recommend if you download his like the audio lectures, download it, convert it to MP3, add it to your audiobooks if you have an iPhone. If you have an Android, I don't know what's wrong with you. I'm just kidding. But convert it to an audiobook so that like it keeps where you are. You know what I mean? So you just start, stop, and go about your life. And by the time you get back in your car after your long day, you're driving home, you start again, and you're in that same concept where you're not having to find where you were last. You know what I mean? And then you can like play with the speeds. You can plus 10 seconds, minus 10 seconds on like the audiobook app that the iPhone has. You know what I'm saying? But I think that was a good thing. I just made an audiobook of it and kept it moving. A couple more things I want to talk about. So I talked about the MBMEs. There's also what's called the Free 120, which is basically like the people that write the Step people, USMLE people, like provide you 120 questions that were on old Step exams, and it basically like you get to use the interface that you're gonna use on Step and get comfortable with the interface. Absolute recommendation. I had literally like 2 or 3 questions on my real exam from the Free 120. You know what I mean? So and like you get to like play with like cause the hard sounds on Step, they're not like press play and listen. Like you have to like take the stethoscope into different places, you know what I mean? So you get to practice that as well. So Free 120 MBMEs, I think back at it, I probably did like easily over 7,000 questions with like all the MBMEs, UWorld 1.5 times, free 120. I was also at like the last week, I already finished UWorld, so I got a free trial of RX, and I was doing like 100 a day just to stay sharp. Now I want to talk about like my last week. So I mentioned how I made like a Scooby snack fact list, basically I made like my own rapid review, and I wouldn't recommend doing that like early in the process, because literally like your list will be too long where it's not rapid reviews all the first aid, right? But when you feel like you're at a point where you feel like you're in a good place, you're maybe making good scores on your practice test, you know what I mean? You may have like a week or 2 weeks left, you feel me? And you want to like, okay, at this point I should know most things, right? So when I was rereading first aid, I felt like I knew most things, but if I saw something like, wow, I don't really know that, or I didn't know that as well, let me write it down, let me be cognizant of it, you know what I mean? And I mean, I made a note of it, but like you can like make Anki cards, or, you know, make flashcards or something like that. You just want to, or have a running list, like a journal or something. Like you want to, the things that like you may have missed that were kind of like, you want to refresh up on those things like 1 to 2 days before your exam. The day of my exam, I read through my Scooby snack fact list, and I probably saw like 2 or 3 questions from that list. I was like, God, I see you looking out. You feel me? So. But I wouldn't do that like day one, because there's so much that your list will legitimately become useless. It'll become first aid again. But when you feel like you're at a good place, like doing like a read through of first aid, let's say within 2 weeks, two weeks of your exam, you're rereading first aid. At this point, you've done a lot of questions. You've seen how most things are asked. You've seen what they've stressed. So free game, if you see like in first aid, like the little parentheses, like just seems kind of random. Those are the zebras they put on step. There's a reason it's in first aid, right? So what I was doing when I did my power read through in first aid, I wanted to make sure that I knew all those little like parentheses, small little things, because you're gonna know off rip what the disease is, what the treatment is, what the risk factors, but then they're gonna ask you something random about it, right? So I wanted to make sure that I was aware of all the little random things. So I'll give you an example. So let's say Fresno State ataxia, right? You know how it presents, you know like the trinucleotide repeats, you know the biopathophysiology, all that, yeah. And then they're gonna ask you like, on step, they're gonna ask you like, this disease is a defect in what? And if you don't know that the frataxin protein is a iron binding protein, like, then you're screwed. It's gonna be iron, copper, zinc, you know what I mean? It's like, you know it's Fresno State tax, you know everything else but this random you know what I'm saying? So I wanted to make sure that I knew those little Scooby snack facts. And that's why I reread first aid, and that's why I made a key of it. So as you read first aid, like be cognizant of the fact that like the reason it's there, like that little parentheses is like, okay, this, if it's there in first aid, let me make sure I know that. Does that make sense? And then lastly, I think, and this is super high yield, like 1, 2, 3 days before your exam, rewatch Pathoma's chapter 1 through 3. Like, you know that stuff, you know it, boom, 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 whatever, but like literally there's like 6 to 10 questions that are straight verbatim off of that, you know what I mean? And that's like the fundamental processing behind how pathology works, you know what I'm saying? Because like once you understand at the cellular level like what that is, you can answer a lot of like just random, just thinking questions, you see what I'm saying? So I rewatched Pathoma chapter 1 through 3 that last week, and super high yield, like super high yield. So the night before the exam, you start preparing yourself mentally, like, all right, tomorrow's game day, it's a big day, you know what I'm saying? Like, start hyping yourself up, get a massage, like, go get a good night's sleep, all that good jazz. The day of the exam, at that point, is game day, you feel me? Like, it's time to shine, time to put all the work that you put in, it's time to, see what's really happening. Like, and I mentioned in all my other videos, I'm mentioning it again, like 50% of step 1 is your mentality, right? It's like, are you gonna go in that hole and have a panic attack, and then your cortisol levels rise, you can't think straight, you're just fumbling? You're gonna go in that hole and be like, all right, like, I don't know it, deep breath, keep pushing, right? So you have to get your mental psych right the day of the exam. On my day of my exam, I'm gonna, you feel me? You know what I'm saying? Drop the baby, maybe it depends on my mood, I'm shit, you know what I'm saying? Like, game day, I'm getting myself ready for game day, you know what I'm saying? So, like, you have to go into the exam with confidence, and then you take your exam, and then after that, you're done with your exam, you need to, elevate your liver transaminases a bit, you feel me? Like, you gotta tee up, man, because regardless of how it went down, you know what I'm saying, you took the test, everything's gonna work out, and more than likely, like, if you do everything, and if you put in the work, you'll be pleased with your score. Remember what I said, energy in equals score out. And STEP is really one of those linear relationships where, if you define a goal, this is what I want, this is what I'm gonna do to make sure I get what I want. So to wrap it up, when you study for STEP and you're in dedicated, like, stay healthy, like mental health is important, like, talk to your friends and family, like don't, unfortunately the way the test is set up, like a lot of people, like I did, like I was really in a bad mental state, but try to like continue to do things, like schedule time for you to like stay sane, you know what I mean? Because what's the point, you're studying for this test, next thing you know, you're depressed, you know what I'm saying? Like that's not the purpose of life. So schedule time to take care of yourself. Lastly, I want to talk about Anki, because I know a lot of people like are curious about Anki, or like ask me like, hey, did you use Anki? I didn't use Anki. I tried to use Anki for step 1, but it was just so overwhelming because I was trying to use too many resources. I didn't really have a game plan. But if I could start school again, let's say I'm a first year med student, I would probably get like one of those pre-made step Anki decks and do the associated cards with whatever section I'm in, because what Anki does is just spaced repetition. It's the same concept of why questions work, It's called active like recall, where it's like instead of you putting things into your brain, you're seeing what do I know? Does that make sense? And the things that I'm missing, you see more. The things that you get right, you don't see as much. Spaced repetition, right? So I didn't use Anki for for step 1, because I tried. I downloaded the deck. I started to do it, but it was just so overwhelming. I was just like, nah, fuck this. And it was just too overwhelming. You feel me? Like I felt like I was sinking. But I'm a religious Anki user now for like my clerkships and for step 2. And if I would have went back into it, I would have tried to incorporate Anki earlier in preclinicals. But I think Anki is a great resource. It's wonderful. I just can't speak on it personally because I didn't use it for step 1. But if you're a first year watching this video, like, I think it's a good idea to get one of those step decks and do cards every day. Kind of like how I did the 5. I recommended the 5 to 10 questions a day. Like the questions trump Anki because like you don't know what the question is going to entail of, but doing Anki every day as well will help keep that material there. Does that make sense? With Boards and Beyonds, if I was to do it all over again, kind of how I used first aid as I was going through school, how I used Pathoma when I was going through school, I would have used Boards and Beyond as I was going through my classes. Does that make sense? Because Boards and Beyond is solid, but I didn't have time to start watching Boards and Beyond in dedicated. It was just too much time. Lastly, don't fall into the trap of being passive with your study. You know what I mean? Like the real deal is a 287-hour exam of questions. So it only makes sense to do questions. A lot of people like watch, DIT for 2 months, and then watch Pathoma for a month, and then, watch Sketchy for a month, and then try to do questions and suffer. Does that make sense? So like, it only makes sense to start doing as many questions as you can. You know what I mean? And a lot of people don't like doing questions out for it because they feel like, oh, I don't know it all. I don't know it. You're in your second year of med school. You've already learned this stuff. You've seen the material at some point. See the question, get it wrong, learn, don't get it wrong again. Fool me once, shame on me. You can't get fooled again, you feel me? Anyway, that's the end of this video. Thank y'all for tuning in. I hope this video can help somebody achieve their USMLE goals and get to the desired specialty of their choice. Subscribe, share this video with your classmates. The goal is for all of us to eat. You feel me? And I feel like it's a very practical manner on how you can live your best life and still achieve the goals that you want. Anywho, Ambitious Abe, subscribe, like, share, all that good jazz. Until next time, stay humble, stay hungry, let's get it.